Home prices are dropping across America as we enter into the second phase of the housing market correction, but some cities are actually declining at a faster rate than others. With mortgage rates much higher than they were a year ago and many layoffs taking place, particularly in the tech sector, what we're seeing is that's having a huge effect, particularly on cities that rely on those tech jobs, and not only that, but just cities in general that have seen a lot of growth take place over the past couple of years. So with that said, in today's video, we're going to talk about the 10 cities that are cooling down the fastest, and not only that, but surprisingly 5 cities that are actually starting to heat up. So before I get started on that, do me a favor and support the channel by smashing that like button, and if you haven't already done so, definitely subscribe, hit that notification bell to watch more content like this, and with that said, let's jump into it. Alright, so Redfin just released this article talking about the 10 cities that are cooling off the fastest. Now, the way they calculated this data is they basically took the 99 biggest metropolitan areas across the country and compared data from February 2022 to October 2022. Now, October is the most up-to-date information they have as far as monthly data is concerned, but the reason they chose February as the comparison is February was the last time we saw mortgage rates hovering below 4% levels, and we were near the peak in the housing market as far as demand and competition are concerned. And lastly, I want to point out that this is based on price per square foot and not the median sales price. So with that said, let's get started on this list, and at number 10, we have the city of Seattle, Washington. Now, back in February of 2022, Seattle was seeing growth year over year of 22.2%, and now that has shrunk drastically, currently sitting at just 3.6% year over year growth. That's a drop of 18.6 points. Now, I've been talking about the Seattle market for a while now about how it's one of the markets that is definitely going to be seeing some of the biggest corrections in the housing market, and the future really doesn't look bright with the Seattle market having a huge concentration in the tech sector. You see, out of the 2 million workers in Seattle, over 160,000 of them work particularly in the tech sector. So that makes almost 10% of the entire workforce. Now, as far as the median sales price is concerned, Seattle has seen some of the biggest price declines take place across the country. They're currently down over 12.2% from peak levels at this point, and we're getting closer and closer to what would technically be considered a crash at 20%. At number 9, we have the city of Colorado Springs in the state of Colorado, and that city in particular also has a strong concentration of tech jobs. Colorado Springs was seeing an increase of 22.5% year over year back in February. That's dropped tremendously now down to 3.8% year over year. So in total, that gives them a drop of 18.7 points between February and October. And so that is pretty bad, but not as bad as our next city at number 8, which is Riverside, California. Riverside has been a city to watch over the past several months. They've been a city that's seen some of the highest levels of growth across the country. Back in February, seeing as much as 25.6% year over year growth. Well, that has completely changed at this point. Now in October, we've seen that shift down to 6.8% year over year growth. So that is a drop of 18.8 points of growth over that span of time. Now, although Riverside is cooling off in that regard from February to October time, what we're seeing is from peak levels, we've only seen the median sales price drop a total of 8.8%, which is on par with around the national average. But I do believe that Riverside will be one of the late bloomers in this housing crash, and they will see bigger declines coming throughout 2023. At number 7, we have another California city, the city of Sacramento, California. And Sacramento was seeing some great growth taking place back in February of 2022, seeing a total of 20.8% year over year growth. Well, that's also changed drastically at this point, down to just 1.2% year over year growth, barely over stagnating at this point. And so in total, between February and October time, we've seen a drop of 19.6 points of growth during that period of time. Sacramento was one of the most popular destinations for home buyers to move into from out of state, but we are seeing that start to slow down, and especially with the median sales price, we've already seen that come down 11.7% from peak levels, making it one of the fastest fastest cooling markets across the nation. Now, not too far away from Sacramento is our number 6 city, and that is the city of Oakland, California. And Oakland is pretty special because it's one of the few cities on this list that's already starting to see negative year-over-year price growth. Now, it's important to note that with how fast prices have gone up, particularly in 2021, that it's going to really take some time to see these prices adjust to where the year-over-year numbers start to hit negative numbers. And that's why we've seen many of these markets that have seen some massive declines from peak levels. They still show some positive growth because it takes time ultimately for them to finally reach those negative levels. Now, Oakland is a little bit different because they didn't see quite as much price appreciation compared to many of these other markets on the list. They were at about 19.3% year-over-year appreciation back in February of 2022. We're now down to negative 0.6% in Oakland as of October 2022. So we've seen a drop in total of about 19.9 points in growth over that span of time. Now, as we get to the top half of this list, you're going to find many markets I've been talking about in my previous videos that I believe are headed for some major corrections ahead in 2023. I'm talking, of course, about the pandemic boom towns. I'm talking about some of the expensive markets. And so with that said, at number 5, we have the city of Boise, Idaho. Now, Boise at one point in time was seeing the highest amount of price growth across the nation. Now, already by February of 2022, it was starting to slow down by that point. And so it was still pretty strong overall, but it was at about 20.1% year-over-year growth back then. Now, fast forward to October, and Boise is currently sitting at 0% year-over-year growth, completely stagnating at this point. And so we've seen a drastic shift of about 20.1 points of growth from that span of time. At number 4, we have Las Vegas, Nevada, which was one of the most popular destinations to move to during the pandemic. And so as a result, they saw a lot of price growth taking place. Going back to February of 2022, Las Vegas was seeing as much as 29.3% year-over-year growth. That put Las Vegas, Nevada right at the top for price appreciation taking place. But with that said, we have seen that correct at this point. We're currently at 8% year-over-year growth. So we've seen a total drop of 21.3 points in growth during that span of time. Now, I do want to point out that when it comes to median sales price, we have seen Las Vegas, Nevada drop pretty drastically from its peak levels. It's already down 11% at this point. So that is a pretty big drop, but not as big as our number 3 city, which is the city of San Jose, California. Now, San Jose is known for being one of the biggest tech hubs across the United States, with the Silicon Valley being there. For this reason in particular, along with the fact that San Jose is one of the most expensive markets across the country, I do expect that San Jose is going to continue to see further declines throughout 2023, as the current median sales price is still sitting at over $1.3 million. Back in February of 2022, San Jose was sitting on 20.4% year-over-year appreciation. Well, that's dropped significantly at this point, now down to one of the few cities that's actually seeing negative price growth again, with Oakland we talked about earlier, now down to negative 1.6% appreciation year-over-year. So that means that San Jose has actually seen a 22-point drop across that span of time between February and October this year. Now, I do want to mention that as far as the median sales price is concerned, San Jose has seen one of the biggest drops from peak levels we've seen across the country. And that's something I've been tracking for a while now on this channel, as far as how much prices have dropped from peak levels. And San Jose has seen a drop of over 16.3% from peak levels so far. And many experts and myself alike believe that we're only going to see that number get worse, particularly as we see more tech layoffs take place. Now, at number 2, we have the Phoenix, Arizona market. And Phoenix is a unique market in that it has the strongest concentration of iBuyers across the country. Now, I mentioned it many times on the channel before about how iBuyers are going to play a major role in this housing market correction. They're already taking major losses at this point, particularly in the Phoenix market, and they're already cutting prices by 2% on a bi-weekly basis. So you have to imagine that's going to play a huge role in the Phoenix market that has some of the largest concentration of iBuyers. Now, to give you a quick idea, Opendoor is just one iBuyer, and Opendoor by itself has over 10% of the entire single family market market in Phoenix as far as the houses that are on the market right now. So as they cut prices consistently, you can only imagine the type of effect that has on the market. Well, back in February of 2022, Phoenix was seeing some of the strongest growth across the nation, as much as 28.7% year-over-year growth. Well, that's now gone down to just 6% year-over-year growth and seeing a drop of 22.7 points over that span of time. So that is no doubt a huge adjustment taking place in the city of Phoenix, but no city really comes close to our #1 city, and that is the city of Austin, Texas. Austin is simply the market that is crashing the hardest right now, and however you want to look at it, from whatever angle you want to see it from, the city is not in a good position right now. You see, back in February of 2022, Austin was seeing a growth of 24.2% year over year. Now in October, that's gone down drastically to 1.3% year over year growth, which gives it the biggest adjustment across the country taking place. Almost 23 points taking place, 22.9 to be specific. Now, not only is Austin seeing the biggest adjustment throughout that period of time, but Austin is also, as far as the median sales price is concerned, has seen the biggest drop across the country from peak levels, having already dropped 17.8%. So Austin at this point is already knocking on the door of what would be considered technically a housing crash at 20%. But not only that, but we already know that Austin has a strong concentration in the tech sector, and in addition to that, builders are playing a huge role in Austin as well. Well, new construction makes up about 32% of Austin's entire inventory on the market. So you can only imagine, I've talked about this on the channel, that as builders are cutting prices, they're having to offload their inventory and up their incentives. And so as they're doing this, that's 32% of the entire market is doing that. And so that affects tremendously the resale value of some of these existing homes on the market. So Austin is definitely the market I would be worried about the most at this point. But with that said, I also wanted to share a very quick snippet list of the top 5 markets that are actually heating up. I'll go through this rapid fire style. And again, this is still from the period of February 2022 to October 2022. At number 5, we have Wilmington, Delaware, that was sitting at 10.3% growth back in February, now up to 11.9% year-over-year growth. At number 4, we have Milwaukee, Wisconsin, that's gone from 8.4% now up to 10.8%. At number 3, you got McAllen, Texas, which has gone from 16.3% growth year-over-year up to 18.7% year-over-year growth, which just sounds insane at this stage in the market to be seeing that type of growth. At number 2, you have Bridgeport, Connecticut, jumping from 4% to 7.5%, and the market seeing the biggest jump in terms of heating up is actually Albany, New York. Albany has seen a change in growth of over 8 points in total, so we've seen it go from about 2.8% back in February, now sitting at 11.2%. So that about sums up the video for today. If you guys enjoyed the video and you gained some value from it, do me a favor and support the channel by smashing that like button. And if you haven't already done so, definitely subscribe and hit that notification bell to watch more content like this. Also, let me know in the comments below if you have any thoughts or questions, and I'll do my best to get back to you. Finally, follow me on Instagram and TikTok at The Out of State Investor. And if you enjoyed today's video, I'm going to highly recommend you check out one of these 2 videos over here. And with that said, I'll see you guys on the next one.